Welcome, everybody. It's 7 p.m. on October 13, the year 2020, and we'll open up our monthly village board meeting for the month of October here. Since we're all still in remote mode and virtual mode, I'll just state for the record that this meeting is being held with compliance with the governor's executive orders 202.1 and continuing. That allows us to work from remote locations and not be in the same room. We are recording, and Panda is also going to be able to put it up on their medium, their platform. We're showing some more participants in. I do show we have a quorum. We have board members Jennifer Norris.
Playing with computer audio.
Jay Trapp has come in.
Yep.
Brent Kowalczyk and myself, so we have 4 out of 5 board members. So we are empowered and in quorum format. As is our custom, instead of all rising in different rooms and different homes across the village for the pledge to the flag, what we'll do is just take a moment to thank quietly those on the front line, the essential workers, and those locally and across the country that have given their all for COVID, and some who have succumbed to COVID. We'll just take a brief moment of silence to open the meeting. Okay, good. Thank you, everybody. In front of me, I have the agenda, and everybody's been circulated the various documents that we'll need for tonight. Relatively busy night, and we'll get going here. In the month of September, we had one board meeting on September 14th. Those minutes were circulated. I reviewed them, and I would ask that if there are any other additions, alterations, or corrections to what's been sent around. Hearing none, I would move that we approve those minutes. Is there a second?
Second.
Any other thoughts, discussion? And this is a lightweight thing. I'll just ask for a voice vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, so the minutes.
Is that an opposition, Ray?
The minutes are approved. We'll let Ray talk. He's our treasurer. We have in your packets the treasurer's report and supporting documents. We did have folks come in and work on the vouchers over the weekend and today. Ray, you prepared to give a recap of your report there?
Yeah, the account balances as of September the 30th, 2020. The general fund is $999,613.55. I would like to point out that on October the 5th, we did get the CHIPS grant of $29,376.03. So we're probably, as of the end of last week, we were back over $1 million, about $1,015,000 from what I can remember. The water fund, $71,184.53. Trust and agency, $20,417.35. Petty cash, $57.75. I actually counted it by hand. Village green, $4,149.92. Hard scrabble, $2,881.94. The health insurance, $2,926.69. The sewer fund, $23,290.25, and there's nothing in the capital fund. In terms of the reserve checking balances, these only change by $1 or $2 a month because of interest, so they're not much different than they were last month. Fire department, $5,029.08. Police, $14,572.83. USDA, $108,925.03. Highway, $20,769.24. Snow reserve, $3,278.59. The tower reserve is $17,706.52. Unemployment, $4,542.88. Court reserve, $3,297.68. Office reserve, $972.26. The monthly expenses for the month of September, in the general fund, $112,153.11. The water fund, $11,445.46. trust and agency, $1,165.44. I've kind of changed that number because it reflects what actually went out in terms of the various costs relating to insurance and health insurance. The sewer fund, there's nothing in that. So I respectfully submit the treasurer's report for this particular meeting for the month of September.
Thank you, Ray. As Ray was talking, he mentioned the CHIPS money received October 5th, and that's good to know. He and I were monitoring that to make sure it came in. One thing we'll have to do, Ray, is that's actually our fiscal year expense being reimbursed in the new fiscal year. So we'll have to work on that with our controller and you and so forth. Overall, it's all good. It's just we'll just have to do some bookkeeping and track that properly. I don't know, did it work? I put a share screen up. You guys seeing my fund balance graph? What I did, I plugged in, and I'll start with a little intro. At the end of September, we got our AUD report filed up with the controller's office. Excuse me. And we have an unassigned fund balance of this over here where I have my cursor moving, $354,313. This is our planned point of where we want to be. You'll all remember many years ago, we set ourselves a goal of $300,000 to keep our fund balance in that range. And that goal was set then to be about 15% of our operating costs per year. In those intervening years, our costs have gone up by our design and under our control. Let's see, what we've got is, our 2020 goal would be using that same 15% would be, we want to be around $333,000 in fund balance. We're dancing right there, and we'll see that sharp improvement that we all worked so hard to do. And then we're showing a slightly downward trend here, but that's, like I said, that's by our design and our plan. Rather than borrowing some money, we use our fund balance a little bit to help us offset some of our capital purchases, like the big snowplow and certain things. So this is fine in my opinion. I just wanted you all to see it, and essentially it's a graphic representation of a lot of hard work. And thank everybody for their contribution. I'll stop the share. With that, Ray, he always attaches his supporting documents, which everybody should go through. One of our strengths has been testing year-to-date numbers against where we are in the year. So we'll have to keep that going. Thank you, Ray.
You're welcome.
Back to me. Police report. In your packets, you do have the September figures. We'll talk more about police reform and redesign in our regular business section, but for September, the reports are showing us 458 incidents. Looking at this, I just remembered something we need to do in a moment, but the incident breakout, 314 in the village of Red Hook, 138 in the town of Red Hook, and 6 in the village of Tivoli. We had tickets issued this month for 87, breaks out 56 in the village, and shows no parking tickets this cycle, and 31 in the town. Arrests were 14. That's 8 in the village and 6 in the town. This week, actually today, I learned some sad news that I'd like to turn back to our minutes and just do something here for this month's minute. I was advised today of the sudden passing of one of our local business persons. We know him as Watertight Plumbing. Mr. Chris Stelling passed away suddenly, apparently late last week, Thursday or Friday. He was not really old enough, and he was too young to pass away, and had no long-term illness that we knew of. The reason we know him, he was a long-term sponsor of Hardscrabble Day. He's done a lot of pro bono type work for folks that need a little help here and there around the town. It's a sudden and shocking passing, and I think even though he did not resided right in the village. His business was based here out on East Market Street, and he was a helper. Leave one blank page in our minutes of this month's meeting in his honor. And from what I can gather from people, there is a wake and services tomorrow, Wednesday, at the funeral home next door. So if anybody knew him personally, that's an option too. But so Larry, you'll please do that for us in our minutes.
Yes, thank you. Appreciate that. He was a good man,
Yeah.
good
Yeah.
person.
Looking at the police report, brought it back to my memory. That's how I heard about it today. And as always, the details are in the police report there. All right, I think we could move. Mr. Trustee Trapp, are you ready to report in on planning and zoning? And
Oh, sure.
okay.
We just on the planning part, the Dutchess County Planning Federation Board of Directors had my last meeting today, and we the way that it works for us is that the membership does not vote on the president, vice president, secretary. The board of directors meets and elects the new. So Ann Dexter is the new pres, and Barbara Roberti from Town of Wappinger is a new VP. And we're moving forward. We had our meeting. The last meeting that we will have, at least that I'm aware of for the year, is going to be the 12th of November. It's floodplain regulations for local review boards. It's going to be presented by the New York State Department of State. It's an hour and a half, and it's all virtual again. Heather will send the links around the invitations and everything in a little while. The Planning Federation is looking to purchase our own subscription of a Zoom meeting sort of platform. It's a little different than what most I've seen. It's it will be, how shall I say, it will not allow for chat. I mean, you can't interrupt the speaker, but you can type in, and then the administrator can respond to you. And it will also allow for polling, because from time to time we do need to vote on certain things to membership. So, and next year, the towns and villages will get charged the $100 that we decided to forego this year. So we'll go up to that. We're doing pretty good. We get no money from the county or anything, so, but our balance is like $15,600. So we're doing pretty good, and we're probably going to try and get a high-powered speaker, since virtual is probably going to be a little less expensive to get somebody there to speak to us. We don't have to pay for travel and lodging and meals and all that sort of stuff. So we're going to spend a little money, try and get somebody going on. And Heather told me, and I did not realize this, that I had been part of the board of directors since 2004. I did not realize that it was 2004, 14, like, you know, that long. That really, I had no clue that it was that long. It just, time flies when you're having fun, right? So I officially resigned from that today. I'm done. And on to Red Hook Building Department. We had 11 building permits issued, no COs, certificates of compliance. There were 10 issued. 4 municipal searches were conducted. 27 Fraley Street, a CO search was done. Yeah, there we go. The wheels of progress are moving, let me tell you guys. No orders to remedy, no stop works, no court appearances, 10 fire inspections. There were 3 complaints issued, or received rather, and the planning board met September 10. Subdivision application for Linden Avenue was reviewed. ZBA was September 24th, and they had 2 items of business in front of them. And the money that was received by the building department this month, a nice check of $2,938. Very nice. And I probably think that's enough for me. So,
All right. What Jay is hinting at is he's soon going to be leaving the Red Hook Environs, and he will be at our November meeting. So we're going to have a
yes, indeed.
departure ceremony, bagpipers out on the sidewalk.
That's something Jackson can do, Brent.
There we go.
Yeah. He hasn't done the bagpipes in a while, but
We'll,
I'm sure
we'll
it
have
would come right back.
we'll have virtual bagpipes.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jay.
Yeah, man.
It looks like, yeah, the fire inspection, building inspection report, seems like we're holding around that 3,000 per month the past few months. So keeping them busy up there. It's good.
That's nice. That's nice money.
Yeah, it's good. A lot of action going on in the village, you know, as far as people improving and doing different things, selling houses and so forth. But anyway, let's see. Next in my pile and on the agenda would be Deputy Mayor Kowalczyk on varied and interesting reports there. So, Brent, you ready to go?
yep.
Okay.
Start with the Village Green monthly report. The current balances of our related budget accounts. We have 4,000 in the community beautification, tree contractual. We are in the hole, 3,100. We did quite a few extra trees and pruning this time around. Our checking account was mentioned in our report is $4,192.82. There were no Village Green meetings held during the month of September. We did have a surprise donation. David Hughes, owner of Dave's Tree Service, has donated 2 trees to the Village Green Committee. The Village Green Committee will plant these trees as a thank you to all of the past and present Village Green Committee volunteers that have helped plant over 800 trees throughout the village. And also to thank the Red Hook Village Highway Department for their years of service maintaining our urban forest. So thanks to the Highway Department and Dave's Tree Service. It was quite nice to get that from him.
Very nice.
And we are also working on, we are ordering trees tomorrow actually for our annual fall planting. So Dave Pearson's been working hard to try to get people to go ahead and give us permission to plant on the right of ways. So I don't think we'll have a big lot of trees to plant, but we want to keep the tradition rolling. So anyone interested in having trees planted on their adjacent right of ways, or for volunteering for planting days, or for making a donation, as Dave's Trees did, to support the various community beautification projects, may contact David Pearson, myself, or the village clerk. The Village of Red Hook Highway Department monthly report for the month of September. Village Highway Department is picking up first Mondays of the month, and that is all related to the schedule and weather. They've been doing a pretty good job picking them up. There's been a lot of brush on the streets as of late. Residents are reminded to place lawn debris and brush in separate piles, curbside and not in the road. And please limit the brush piles to 1 pile per household per month. Limit the size of the brush piles to 6 feet by 6 feet by 6 feet, with tree branches no larger than 6 inches in diameter. And brush includes tree trunks, stumps, garbage, and construction material will not be picked up. And something from the highway department, they mentioned to me, neighbors are encouraged to share a brush pile. So if there's a brush pile you see that your neighbors are accumulating, ask them if they'd be so kind to take your brush, and it makes it easier and quicker for our highway department to pick those up. Due to the limitations and restrictions on burning brush, the highway department will begin chipping and grinding debris. Something we have to keep in mind, Ed, for the next budget year, up grinders and that kind of thing. Marker and directional signs for the Village to Village Trail have been installed along bike routes in the village that terminate at the municipal parking lot kiosk on Prince Street and South Broadway. Revenue for the sale of scrap metal was received on September 11th in the amount of $431. Total revenue generated for this fiscal year is $1,448.40. Since we began the scrap metal recycling program back in 2007, we generated $32,940.52. And the proceeds from this program go toward the purchase of tools and equipment for the village highway, water, and materials management department. Anyone interested in donating scrap metal can contact the village highway department at 758-8600 or the village clerk's office. And the highway department personnel will assist property owners by picking up scrap metal upon request. The next one is the Red Hook Infrastructure Monthly Report and the Intermunicipal Task Force, the Red Hook Sewer Project. Meetings were held on September 4th, 11th, and 25th via telephone conference calls and in the village building. CT Mail, Rodenhausen, Shaw, and Polidoro, myself participated, and we are still working USDA Rural Development to conduct a final review and approval of the letter of conditions requirements prior to bid. Outstanding items included final agreements with bond counsel, auditors, village attorney, sewer project attorney, and engineers. Most of the required documents had been previously submitted, but due to the pandemic and working from home requirements of the USDA staff, resubmission has been requested. The staff do not have complete access to project files located in their agency offices because they're working at home. We also discussed the possibility of the Red Hook sewer operator during construction to become familiar with installation and the troubleshoot conditions that may arise. And due to the time to receive final approvals from Dutchess County Department of Health and settle easements, discussions are ongoing regarding final completion deadlines and cost overruns if these conditions are necessary. There's a little typo there, Lara, if you could just correct that. An article was circulated by IMBY, which is short for In My Backyard, on September 22nd, entitled Sewer Project About to Go to Bid, Delighting Red Hook Villagers by Emily Sacker. And our mayor was featured prominently in that article, and to hear that the villagers are delighted about this project, because we've certainly been working extremely hard on it. The cell tower generator project, I think it is on the agenda for this evening. Bids were received and opened on August 25th. 6 contractors submitted bids. CT Mail recommended Pentel Electric from Middletown, New York. He awarded the contract for the Village of Red Hook water tank site generator project. The bid amount came in at $83,000. That was the lowest, most qualified bid. An action by the Village Board of Trustees is required to approve a resolution to the contract. There's been ongoing discussions with Ed and some of the engineers about the cost, and also with David Groth. And we've asked David to look at amending the contracts with the cell company vendors currently renting space for the equipment on or adjacent to the water storage tank, share costs of providing the generator, and contribute to the operating, maintenance, and service of the generator. The Village of Red Hook Water and Sewer Administration Improvement Project, inconsistencies in the billing is ongoing. Monitoring the water use by certain customers are being reviewed. Northeast Water Technologies continue to implement the leak detection water loss reduction program for the Village of Red Hook water system. Reports of leaks have been reported and some repairs have been made. A comprehensive list of occurring water leaks and recommendations for repairs is forthcoming. A new flow meter has been requested to replace the existing flow meter at the water treatment plant, and I understand that that has been replaced and is up and operating, and that's good news. We also discussed upcoming deadlines for the New York State Environmental Facilities Corporation Drinking Water Revolving Fund Water Infrastructure Improvement Act grant applications, and we found out that this New York State will not be offering that grant this year. And we are trying to seek funds to repaint the existing paint and repaint the elevated storage tank and to make operational the Red Hook Town, Red Hook Village interconnect. So those are going to have to wait until funding is available. The Red Hook Crosswalk signal devices, this is also on the agenda later tonight. The installation of the ADA compliant crosswalk ramps, repainting of crosswalks, installation of solar powered rectangular rapid flashing beacons, or FB, is mid-block crosswalks at Benner Road and West Market Street and Morgan's Way and South Broadway. We were at a meeting, Ed and I, on Friday. It was a couple Fridays ago, and we got a telephone call from the New York State Regional Local Projects Manager, and this was on September 25th. And instead of installing pedestrian-activated LED warning signs at mid-block crosswalks at Fraley Street and South Broadway and Prince Street and South Broadway, those are just signs with lights going around the perimeter of the signs. The DOT will instead be installing pedestrian-activated solar RRFBs at these locations. And these will be the rapid flashing beacons that we have on 2 other locations. So I think what we'll be discussing tonight is a revised and amended resolution that's required by the Red Hook Board of Trustees, could be complete upon approval resolution before November 2020. Route 9 Old Farm Road Water Loop project. Sounds like we got a lot of projects going on here, and I think we do. Final revisions and modifications being made to the agreement between the private property owners and the Village of Red Hook. And if you remember, the water loop project will connect dead-end water mains to provide more efficient, safe, and easily maintained water distribution to properties along Old Farm Road and properties on the east side of Route 9 north of M&T Bank. The costs associated with the project, including engineering, design services, and construction, will be paid by private property owners. Costs for permitting and construction oversight by the Red Hook Village engineers will be paid by the Village of Red Hook. And on the intermunicipal task force, both I and myself represent the village, and there has been no meetings of the task force, none held in the month of September. One more. So there was no meetings of the Town of Red Hook Zoning Review Committee, which I'm a member of. Also no meetings of the Community Preservation Fund Advisory Board. The current balance of the Community Preservation Fund as of September 30th is $1,569,862.54. So with all the sales of the properties, and thank you, Mr. Trapp, balance of this, the CPF. The Sawkill Watershed Community, I represent the village on that. There were no meetings held during the month of September. They've been issuing newsletters. Issue 11 came out on September 17th. And this issue includes information on candidates running the New York State Assembly, the U.S. Congress, and the New York State Senate. Town of Red Hook Local Waterfront Revitalization Program, or LWRP Working Group. There were no meetings held during the month of September. The working group has submitted a package for review and comments to the New York State Department of State. And this is done prior to organizing the public informational meeting for the Red Hook Town community to review the current proposed updates to the local waterfront revitalization plan of the Town of Red Hook. The Northern Dutchess Alliance Executive Committee, I am the local government representative on that committee. Was held via Zoom on September 18th. A review of financial reports, approval of post-meeting minutes, and a discussion of future plans and events were discussed. On our own Village of Red Hook Zoning Review Committee, we met on September 11th, 18th, and 25th via Ring Central. Michelle Gregg of Four Corners Planning participated. PRC reviewed and proposed amendments to Section 200-11, which is the Highway Business District, Section 209, which is the Residential District, R10,000, Section 200-5, which are definitions, and to the Village of Red Hook zoning map. Consideration was given to include 8 properties currently in the R10,000 district on South Broadway and one property on Fifth Street into the neighborhood mixed use district, and one property currently in the R10,000 district on East Market Street into the highway business district. And also we're looking at permitting live work uses for properties currently in the R10,000 zone on East Market Street. And we're also considering amending the name of the highway business district to the Gateway District. We're proposing use amendments that are compliant with the land use map of the Village of Red Hook Comprehensive Plan. So we've been busy on that, and for the two that are with us tonight on the ZRC, we're trying to have a meeting this Friday at 2. So that's all I have, Ed.
Thank you, Brent. Maybe just to touch on your last piece you reported on there, the ZRC. So I did set up a Ring Central for Friday 2 for your committee. That's
Thank you.
out. And then do you have a plan or a goal when you'll make your next report out to the village board? Would it be a November meeting, or what should we?
Well, I think what we're trying to do is we've been taking notes, and we're going to probably dump a lot of stuff on our attorney to go through and review. And I know our engineers at Delaware are working on amending the map. So we have a lot of pieces in motion right now.
Mhm.
If we get to November, if we could do it by November, to go through seeker, that would certainly be good. I think our planner has said that she feels confident that we'll be able to get through Dutchess County planning. Do you remember last time we had some issues? So we took their advice and reworked some of our thoughts. And I think the people that were interested in having us include their properties in certain districts, we're still doing that, but also making it more viable. And like I said in my report, more compliant with our land use provisions in the comprehensive plan. So a lot of things to tie together. So we'll move as quickly as we can on that. November would be super. I would love to do that by November.
So what that would mean, though, is we would have the next series of recommendations. Then we would have to set up the public hearings in the months to follow. So
Right. We would have seeker to go through and have a neg deck, and then public hearing to amend the local law. So there's still a lot of paperwork to do, and discussions with the attorney as well. So
okay, good. Thank you. We would then have from Trustee Jennifer Norris info on materials management and other things that pertain to her. We have parks, recreation, community programs, senior affairs, and library relations. But Jen, you want to roll out with that?
All right. As far as materials management goes for the month of September, for garbage, we sold $2,403 in garbage tags and paid out $753.12. We had 6.96 tons of garbage and 3.06 tons of recycling, which breaks down as 1.19 tons of newspaper, 0.52 tons of cardboard, and 1.35 tons of commingled. We were charged $4.30 for contaminated commingled, so we just need to be careful with that. And we are continuing as we have been with recycling going out, alternating weeks, paper and cardboard going out 1 week, but they do have to be separated, and then commingled going out on the alternate weeks. And as far as events, again, due to COVID, everything is canceled. So there's really, unfortunately, nothing to report on that front. So, yeah.
All right. Just to fill in a few parts of it too. Later on, we'll talk about Halloween in general in the village. And but as Jen and we said earlier, we're not planning on our big normal Saturday of Halloween weekend parade and chili cook-off and all that stuff. It's just we can't find a safe, feasible way to put it together. But we'll talk more about village-wide Halloween in a bit later in the meeting. One thing we will do though is with our Economic Development Committee and the street merchants, so to speak, restaurants and retail, we're going to try to dress up the village for the holiday season, which would be post-Thanksgiving, there'll be no Winterfest as we know them in the past with parades or those sorts of gatherings, but promoting a couple things. One will be we'll get the tree in the corner by Yum Yum Noodle again, and have a lot of the commercial landlords will decorate their buildings, and we're asking the tenants if they can do whatever they can design up for their individual window spaces. We should keep things lively and looking good. With COVID being around, it's more important than ever that people get reminded to shop local. We were doing those Friday, then moved them to Saturday music events up at the Eat and Go. The plan there and the design there was to attract folks to buy at a restaurant, sit socially distanced, safely, plexiglass, and out in the open air. And it worked great throughout the summer, and we were doing a few more. I think our last one will be this coming weekend, 17th of October, providing that the weather's good. Since it is outside, we need good weather. And but we're going to continue a couple things. I don't know if we can categorize them as celebrations, but in order to keep the restaurants going, we'll keep our site plan loosening going a bit so they can keep their outdoor dining. And some of them are trying to take some steps for versions of retaining heat in some shape or form. Flatiron has an interesting greenhouse or two going up, and some are putting up pellet heat stoves that mimic the propane heat towers. So they're all working at trying to extend the season, and we'll work with them. And because in my opinion, and everybody's, if the restaurants are attracting customers, then they walk and they see the other shops, and it creates a little street noise and hubbub, which is good. We want to keep that going. So in our newsletter here in September, we put out a reminder for folks, now that it gets colder, use our sidewalks for exercising loops and do as much as you can to support our street merchants and our restaurants. What we'll do is later on, we'll talk about the library came up with something called the Storywalk concept. We have that in the regular business section too. So we'll let that part slide until a little bit later in the meeting. Thank you, Jen. As we said, Mr. Lang is not available tonight, but we did get the water report. I'll look it over and read it out. A little bit of additional information. Brent mentioned that we intended and did change out the master flow meter at the pump house. Like I said, but I'll just repeat it. That was done very, very recently. Anxiously waiting what we would call the daily flow information. From what I'm hearing so far, they're not seeing any major difference in what the old meter was reporting out. With that in your heads, if you look for the month of September, our graph there shows us pretty much in the same bandwidth as far as gallons per day pumped. The report indicates we treated 9.4 million total gallons over the month, which is an average of 313,900 gallons per day. Graphed out there. It's come down a little bit, but we did, like I mentioned, we did our September quarterly billing, which covers the months July, August, and September, which are some of the heavier months of consumption there on that chart. And we do know people are home more, and we do ascribe some of the increase in volume of water pumped to people being home in the COVID era here. But the good news is it's holding steady right now. And I did some analysis from reports run at the quarterly billing session. We sold just over 17.6 million gallons. We had one of the highest quarterly billing dollar amounts in that regard, because that's a pretty high number of gallons. So that's good. So the increased consumption is being billed, but we still are showing a shrinkage. We're pumping about 40% more water than we're selling. So we have tasked out something we'll talk about more later in detail too, but we're looking at further addressing that, and we'll touch on that in the regular business session. But on this water report, as we're required to, we sent bacteriological samples out, and all came back absent of coliform or E. coli, which is a good thing. And they also log, we do have to chlorinate our water, and they log there. We use 105 gallons of sodium hypochlorite, which is an average of 3.5 gallons per day. So in 14,000 gallons of water is 3.5 gallons of chlorine. I'm just going to flip to the daily report. Looking through it, there are some days where we pumped 139,000 gallons in one day. One day was 505,000 gallons. And then the low day looks like 213,000 gallons. It's an interesting wide variation of numbers. The 213 is less than half of a 505, right? So it's interesting to me. So that's the water report. And we'll talk more about water in the next phase of the meeting here. It looks to me that we got through the various department and committee reports. As Brent touched on in highway, the 2 RRFBs are up, and the board, since we've been in office a while, will all remember the acronym, the FAST grant. And they got the 2 RRFBs up and functioning, and they're wonderful. They made some related curb cuts and the curb and sidewalks, all on the state's dime, which is the intention of the grant that we got back in the day. But then I started to panic. Where's the one at the library? And where's the one at Village Hall? Brent cites them by street address, but those are 2 pretty busy spots we wanted included. And you will recall they were going to give us a different style there, like Brent mentioned. But now, when I pointed out nothing was there, they reviewed everything and they said they'll give us the RRFBs, which the board members will also recall that at first they didn't want to put them there for their own reasons. So what they said was they'll do the RFBs, but they need us to change a resolution we had done, I think back in, well, I don't know if I have the date in my brain. It might be in the documentation here, but many years ago we did a resolution authorizing them to do the work, use our grant money. And one of the key components was that since we're 2 different styles, we agreed to maintain both. It was really, and what we're changing now is nothing material, in my opinion, which I'll explain. All of them are still solar powered, and they all, even the old style for the library and the Village Hall area, would have been solar powered with batteries that have to be changed every several years. We had agreed as a board to change them, but the way that first resolution was worded, it had the 2 styles of beacons named in the document. So what I did, I located the old one, the old resolution, and took out the section that was describing a second type unit. It's straightforward, nothing else changed in the body of it. I've circulated it. We're numbering it resolution number 19 to maintain highway signals and highway identified as South Broadway and West Market, also known as New York State Route 9 and Route 199. Like I said, the text doesn't change except in the middle, whereas, where you see the words rectangular rapid flashing beacons located at 199 in Benner Road, New York State 9 at Morgan's Way. Then we put in there plus Route 9 at Prince Street, which is Village Hall, and Route 9 at Fraley Street, provided the village agrees to maintain, repair, and energize such pedestrian crosswalk lighting systems for a period of 25 years, or until such lighting and or maintenance of such lighting is no longer necessary. That's the only change. And then I guess the next one I put, we did pass it back, and it was called Resolution 4 of 2019 was our first one. That's the next one. So we're attesting that, yes, we'll maintain these new style ones, and that, that we just want something there. So it seems like an internal requirement from DOT that I have no problem doing, and I'm sure you all looked it over. I sent it out an email on October 4th, explaining what I just said here orally. I would ask, therefore, that I'll make a motion that the village board adopt resolution 19 to make changes in a pre-existing resolution 4 of 2019, and get the last 2 mid-block crosswalks lit and designed and installed. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Any other thoughts, questions, ideas?
Not so fast. It's fast, Grant.
I know. Internal joke, but not so fast. I even forget what the acronym FAST stands for now. But anyway, for those new on the meeting, we got an $88,000 grant from the state many years ago to improve our walkability, and something we always wanted, and we got it. Great that they're doing it, but it's been a long haul on getting it done. In this case, just to be more accurate, Lara, I'll call for a roll call vote. We have a motion and a second. I didn't hear any other questions or discussion other than the humorous grant discussion. I'll vote aye myself. Mr. Kowalczyk?
Yes.
Mr. Lang is not here.
I'll vote for Charlie.
I think it's illegal.
Trustee Nars, how do you vote?
Yes.
Okay. And Mr. Trapp?
Yes.
Okay. So carries. Thank you. Tomorrow, Lara will have to get that off to, or wait at Troquetta somehow at the state. We can scan it in and I can ship it to her.
Sure.
I think there's a part on there where you attest to it. Right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to stay on the resolutions while we're on that groove. Let's see, Justice Court Grant, if you want to skip down to that in your agendas, please label it Resolution 20. This is the annual reach we do to the Office of Court Administration, which is a pretty good grant source for us. You all will recall that it's really not that competitive. They essentially have money to give out for court safety and security and operations. So what we're doing is Jonah's putting together things to get us reimbursed on certain expenses, ranging from plexiglass and construction of vapor barrier, I guess, moisture.
That's a separate grant.
Pardon me? I'm sorry.
That's separate than what he's asking for here.
Well, I know he's looking at court. He's got computer and then some furniture. And let's see what else you got here. What are you looking at, Mr. Brent?
I was talking to Jonah yesterday, I think, or today.
Yeah.
And he was showing me the plexi on that you're sending behind. That came from something different than what he's asking for on this grant. That's a different.
Yeah, because he talked to me. He said some court clerk furniture and then monitors and different things so they can better perform their virtual meetings. And I thought it include as well as the COVID-19 protections. But I know there is money out there for money. We've been tracking. We created a separate COVID-19 budget expense line so we can identify and grab whatever either FEMA money or court administration money. But this is a particular grant where he needs the village board to authorize him to go ahead. And we've done this every year with him. And then attached to it was a form for me to sign. Let me see if he's more specific there.
Is this the any and all grant applications that in number 2 at the bottom of the resolution? Is that the right resolution?
That's
20.
Yeah, Jay wouldn't have a number on it.
It does not have a number.
Yeah, we're calling it 20. It says the village board, the number 2, if you're reading it, Jay, the village board specifically authorizes Honorable Jonah Treebosser, Justice, to pursue any and all grant application. Yep.
Cool. Yep.
All right. And
I would even say let him exceed the $30,000 if he wants to.
Yeah, I think the reason that number's in there, I think that's the max they give to any.
Yeah, I know.
And he comes, when we get it, he'll come in with his oversized check and give us an update either via Zoom or whatever. But I know we've raised the gross, like when Brent does his scrap metal report. It's amazing over the years what we've been able to get out of the court administration. So anyway, I would offer as resolution 20, I would move that the village board adopt it and enable myself and Jonah to sign the paperwork and pursue a grant to obtain funding for our court operations. Is there a second?
Second.
And then we have a motion and a second. Any other questions, thoughts? Hearing none, I'd move to a vote. And let's see. I don't see that this one has a roll call, but we'll still do it. I'll vote yes. Blondell, Mr. Trapp,
Yes.
Ms. Norris,
Yes.
and Mr. Kowalczyk.
Yes.
Okay, so carries, the resolution 20 is adopted, and we'll get that to Jonah tomorrow, signed, sealed, and he can file for some grant money.
Ed, do you need me to add the roll call to it?
We probably could type that in. Yeah, we probably should.
Okay.
Because since it's remote, we could
Yep.
better record.
Yep.
Um,
On the counter.
Next resolution is Salisbury Bank Line of Credit Renewal. This is one of our money management tools. The new VP for commercial and municipal accounts reached out about a week ago and indicated that the current one coming to normal natural conclusion. And if we still want it, we need to do a resolution to enable it to continue. We've found the line of credit of $200,000 to be an invaluable tool in cases where we're getting grant money and we have to lay the money out front, or cases where we're funding a major purchase from independent budget lines within our operation. It's still a good tool for us. We can cut one check, get the item paid for, and then reimburse ourselves internally from the various budget lines. It takes a little bit of time to get through. And in all cases, whenever we buy something of that magnitude or work on a grant process, the board is fully active and involved. So our goal is always to pay it off as soon as possible. I think one would have been when Ray reports out the CHIPS money, certain things like that. That might not be a great example, but different grants we've got where we have to lay out the money up front. We do it and we monitor the interest rate. We just get charged monthly interest until we get reimbursed. Most cases, it's not a long time, 3 to 4 months or something. So the specifics of this one are we'd renew it with the bank. As I mentioned, whenever we make the purchase or the deal, we set our own internal guidelines and prices and procurement steps. The bank told me this year the interest rate is the prime less 0.25%. And I pushed back saying, can you do any better? And they said they couldn't. But what this resolution does, we're not borrowing any money right now. We're just putting the blanket authority, if and when we ever want to do it, we have that line of credit available. So we labeled this one 21. It's essentially a repeat of ones we've done in prior years. We've been using this tool, I think, for 5 or 6 years is my mental recall. So we updated it with today's date, keeping the amount of line of credit the same. Somewhere in here, I say how we'll use it for reimbursement grants. And as I mentioned, if we're aggregating expense lines, but we need to cut a check for, say, a vehicle purchase, we can cut it, have the check in one amount and get it off. So anyway, as far as the resolution, it's like I said, $200,000, prime less 0.25%. We would always create separate and distinct resolutions when we use it. And I would recommend we do it. It's been a great tool. So I would move that the board adopt resolution 21 to renew the Salisbury Bank line of credit as stated within the form of resolution 21. Is there a second?
Second.
Any other discussion or thoughts? And then I will vote yes. Mrs. Norris,
Yes.
Mr. Kowalczyk,
Yes.
and Mr. Trapp.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion and resolution are adopted. All right. You have to get a glass of water. I'm wearing out my voice here, but one more resolution. We have labeled number 22 of 2020. This is in J-Trap's ballpark more than anybody, but it's has to do with the planning zoning department and 239 agreements with the 239 processes with Dutchess County Department of Planning. They had made some modifications that dropped a few really mundane, low-level zoning changes and from the need to do a 239 review. I'm not sure if in your section, I do have in mind the clip of the 239 planning zoning referral form, and it lists the exempt actions. So essentially, we're affirming that we'll comply and work with that. But the heavy ones still need 239M review, including our ZRC process. Things such as comprehensive master plans still need it, zoning amendments, rezonings involving map changes, local laws with zoning, wetland, historic preservation, affordable housing, architectural review, site plans, special permits, use variances, and area variances. And Lara and I talked about it a little bit. It's our department's familiar with it, and something I think the county's just trying to save some paperwork on the real low level and keep the authority in more of a home rule situation on those exempt actions. I'll offer it in the form of a motion again that the village adopt and sign the county 239M agreement. And let me just look at the agreement itself again. Let's see. Yeah, so the resolution is relatively short. It says we acknowledge the Village of Red Hook administers its own building and zoning department and can generate zoning changes under home rule. I see a word, an extra "the" in that first. We'll take that out with the concurrence of the board. We state the village must send certain zoning change documents to Dutchess County Planning under requisite steps of 239M. And then we'll fill in resolution 22 here. The county under resolution 22 has modified certain requirements of 239M and reduced the type of matters requiring filing. And we'll say the village board has reviewed the agreement document in a remote meeting and approved. The mayor signed the agreement on behalf of the village. The clerk shall circulate the document to the planning and zoning department, the village board, and related boards, just so everybody knows about it. I would offer it to be adopted. Is there a second?
Second.
Was that Mr. Trapp saying that?
Yes, sir.
I had that in my head.
His name is already on it, but
Yeah, I figured give him one of his last dibs at action, but we have motion and a second. Any other questions, thoughts, ideas, contraindications? It looks pro forma, but we just need to do it. So I'll call vote here. Blondell, I'll vote yes. Kowalczyk,
yes.
Lang is not here. Norris,
Yes.
okay, and Trapp.
Yes.
Good. All right. Let's see. What's next? Let's jump back to bullet point number 3. So Halloween considerations. I've seen some emails from some business owners, and we've heard talk of, what's Red Hook going to do for Halloween. I thought what I would do is defer till tonight, where we as a board could think and talk and work together. But as is our custom, throughout COVID, the underlying question is, what are we doing for Halloween with the COVID world around us? As with everything else, we've been following CDC and then New York State rules, regulations, executive orders with regard to everything related to COVID-19 actions and reactions. That ranges from how we staffed our offices to remote work to working in celebrations and not doing celebrations. I don't see any reason why we would change that and become more strict or less strict. I did circulate to the board the CDC guidelines door-to-door trick-or-treating is fit into a category of elevated risk. My personal thinking is we would let the state still rule and the CD still rule. I suggested to the board, I think Governor Cuomo might take another stance on outdoor door-to-door trick-or-treating. I wrote to our governor's rep this morning, but haven't heard back of any immediate change. Long story short, Tivoli, Rhinebeck, we look to benchmark with our sister municipalities. They're not taking any one different step than CDC or state guidelines. I think what we should do is the public is, excuse me, is looking for a little bit of help, a little bit of insight. I think our position should just be CDC and New York State will be the guidelines. If a particular property owner does not want to hand out candy, whether you're a business or a resident, just turn your lights off and make it like you're not participating. There was some suggestion of developing code or signs for folks that wanted to be handing out candy, but I don't see how we could coordinate that with the 800, 900 village properties and businesses. I think we could take a little input and thought from the board at this point. If anybody had different thoughts, but I think it falls on a Saturday this year. One never knows the weather. I think a consideration for us in the village, which has always been fun, but also could be negative, is we tend to attract a lot of the outlier town residents and then other town residents that are in the rural areas. They come to the densely packed village to have a lot of fun, and it's great for the village. But this year, I think we're just gonna have to say, hey, look, it's not 2020 is not the same in almost everything else we do. We're not going to ban trick-or-treating, but it's elevated risk. If you're coming in your bubble, come in your bubble. And then those homeowners or businesses that don't want to participate, they just are not, the businesses could put a sign, or the homeowners just don't answer the door. Something like that.
Yeah, I was just reading the CDC guidelines, and they consider this a higher risk activities.
Yeah, not an elevated, but a higher, yeah.
Yeah, and they said avoid these higher risk activities to help prevent the spread of the virus that causes COVID-19. The first one on that list,
Yep.
Yeah, is participating in traditional trick-or-treating where treats are handed to children who go door to door. And I know in our neighborhood, there's 4 of us online that live on the same street here, swamped, and
I think we're all in the village, and we
they
get
come in packs, of
Yeah.
10 or 20 kids at a time, and
There's no way that you can separate these kids and say, here, stand back, you take one, now you come up. It'll never happen.
no.
Yeah, and it's sad, but I think where I sit is we would just make it public that it's considered a higher risk, elevated risk, whatever that heading is there. And then
Is there a way we can get this out on social media that we're adhering to CDC recommendations, and we're not canceling it, but strongly suggest that other people take recommendations of the CDC?
yeah, I think we could refer folks to the CDC, because what they do talk about is with your inner family bubble, there's outdoor events you could do in your own backyard with you and your family, and people have negatively tested for COVID, different levels of family work or neighborhood work where people feel comfortable with people they're always with.
Is there a way we can get this out on social media? Just so
I think we could do 2 things. Once we decide what we're going to decide, we don't have a specific Facebook page as a village, and that's an intentional thing, but we can get it out. I don't think we need, I was inclined to more like go by consensus here. Just not reinvent anything, just say, look, whether it be ranging from office staffing to how our police interact with the public, we are following CDC guidelines. If you're in our building, there's limited access, you wear masks. Right now, the CDC saying is, here's the risks of outdoor trick-or-treating, and will refresh your memory. I have full faith in the people at Red Hook that they're doing the right thing. And I think everybody's going to be a little touchy. Schools just reopened. We don't want to see infection rates bumping up. So all kids are going to be around each other more than they were for the past 6 months or 7 months. So I don't think we need to reinvent anything different from what the experts tell us. We don't have a health department or anything here in the village. So I think we're saying we'll just reiterate CDC. I know when I researched it, again, with different attempts than what I sent you folks, was they've got some cute, I think, child or young parent oriented posters and things too, which we could try to track down and get a link or something on our website that recaps what we're saying too.
Could we maybe reach out to Red Hook Moms or one of those
I think
organizations and put the link there, and maybe that the village is recommending that they follow the CDC regulations, and here's what they are. And send them.
Which is basically to avoid higher risk activities, such as door-to-door trick-or-treating.
Yeah, because we don't want to promote more risk. We want to.
I mean, people are going to trick or treat. I mean, there's no question, and I just think it's, I don't know that I'm going to feel comfortable passing out candy. So, I just think that people should just respect if people choose not to pass out candy, to not egg your house or whatever, and to try to come up with alternatives. But people are going to trick or treat. I mean, it's already. People discuss Halloween. I always joke that they ask about Halloween even before Hardscrabble Day. So people have been asking about Halloween since August. People are going to trick or treat. It's going to happen. And I think that the best we can do is just, stress the CDC indicates this is a higher risk activity, and to do it as safely as humanly possible, and just respect that not everybody is going to be passing out candy, and just be okay with that. And to come up with a safer alternative if you can.
Yeah, to me, it's have your own backyard party with your family, your immediate neighbors, who your kids might already hang out with anyway. I think most of us don't have young kids anymore here in this group, but I think families that do, they probably have their safe friends, or they know their rules with their immediate best friends, and do something. Jen was talking about outdoor movie and backyard on a sheet, or different things. But we're always in the mood for celebrations and fun. But this one, we just can't figure out a safe way. We looked at trunk or treating and a few different things, but they're all putting a lot of people in harm's way. And
has the town made any declaration about trick or treating? Because we're not the only place to do it.
I haven't seen anything, but they're so rural. I'm not sure. I guess there's 2 or 3 neighborhoods where you can safely walk. But my experience saying most of the town folks load up a van and roll into the village and hit up 100 houses instead of 20 houses.
Thank you.
Anyway, all right, so we'll generate something saying we'll remind folks, refresh memories. Here's the CDC guidelines. We'll try to get out as many platforms as we can. And but the big thing is, if Cuomo changes it, to no trick or treating, that could happen too. It's hard to predict because he's got the dilemma of the downstate, highly populated zones versus upstate, where there's really no people. And I think that could be behind some of his original statement. There's some hot spots flashing now in the urban city area, and you probably have to re-examine it too. Okay, thanks. Next, I have 2 things with regard to library. I might, even though Malcorca, I see her on there. I don't know if you want to unmute Malcorca. One is something that came up at an EDC, Economic Development Committee meeting. We were talking about revitalizing the street in the COVID era, separating folks, but also trying to attract some walkers, some business, and so forth. Malcorca and Amy Smith, who's the assistant director at the library, came up with 2 ideas that I think go hand in hand. One is more immediate, called Storywalk. Are you out there, Malcorca? Can you hear me, or can you?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, I'm looking for your name again. And yeah, without taking a ton of time, you want to describe Storywalk a little bit? You familiar with that one, or is that more Amy's project? Or
That's more Amy's project in the library, but I mean, I'm familiar with it. It's basically where they get around the copyright rules by actually taking a book apart and spreading it out and laminating them in different areas. She did a program already at the rec park, and that went pretty well until someone vandalized it. So the idea now would be that it would be put in businesses, and then people could walk along and go to all the different businesses following the story. And I think it's the pig and something series that's supposed it has a bit of humor, so adults can follow along as well.
yeah, let me just. My Adobe decided to remind me of something. Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, it came up at EDC and it segues to a second project. But I think it's a good precursor. Like Malcorca said, it's designed, there's like 20 stops with each business being approached, and you put a couple pages in your store, and it's designed to be a walking tour, so to speak. And we're offering Village Hall as a starting point, and they could end at the library. And it's really the book she mentioned. None of us, I didn't recognize it. It's like if you have kids that are like 18 months to 5 years old, or something in that range, that those parents and those kids would know it. Amy's, that's her profession, that's her strength, so she knows what book to pick. But it seemed like a really good idea, and it's a library project. I just wanted you all to know about it, that it's an attempt for all of us to work together, and it'd be a good project. So if you see cutout pages laminated in stores, Amy's been out knocking on doors. What it segues into, which is probably more Malcorca, it was called Red Hook Then and Now, I think is the title of what you're postulating. And I don't see the village board having to approve or not approve anything here tonight or at all. It's also more a library project, but you want to talk a little bit?
Sure. It's a project. I wasn't planning on talking. I was just going to listen, but it's called Then and Now, which is it's a play off of the Now and Then project that the Historical Society has been doing, with the idea of doing little plaques in front of businesses with QR codes, so that people could walk and then could use their phone to a website would come up that would be hosted on the library website with history and old photos, and it'd be a way of getting people to walk around and be able to interact with history in a way that is modern and fun, and all ages can interact with it. So
it's a nice idea.
Pardon me, Brent?
It's a nice idea.
Yeah.
I know Historic Red Hook's been talking about it for a while, and I think it's good for all those who have cell phones, by the way.
Come on, Brent, break down. Yeah, and it's, we've been looking for some alternative ways to get some messages out on big picture issues right now, and this could be one. I think it's a variation of the theme. We all might recall Seth Kramer's short video for Historic Red Hook, where he has the Hardscrabble Day Parade going by, and then collages or old pictures of the Red Hook Hotel and different things. It's kind of a neat juxtaposition of a modern shot and an old shot. I think that's the underlying hope of this project. So, but it's, again, I just want to give the boards a heads up, and they'll be working on it. It sounds like Malcorca and Amy are the key drivers on this, and Red Hook, Historic Red Hook is in the EDC group sessions, so they're familiar with it too. But thanks, Malcorca. And then while we're on the library, two other things. The library came up with an idea to bring internet access to the town rec park, and apparently the town is helping with some of the infrastructure costs. And from what I understand, Spectrum has dug and buried the cable connections, and one of the goals there is for, again, in the COVID era, for working parents who maybe could bring a laptop and sit in the open air pavilion, watch some kids out of the corner of the eye as they play on rec park playground area, do some work, or just kids after school doing some work. Trying to take advantage of the open air, and at the same time, the town's going to get some benefit. They can run some cable and get some security things they want to get tied into the network out that way. So, seemed like a triple win, maybe even more than that. But that's about to go live, but a lot of it was a seed idea from the library. They were looking for how to get more internet access to folks out in the town who don't maybe have the same access that others have, meaning either just by geographic reasons or economic reasons. So pull it in, it's almost done from what I can see. That's good. While we're on the library, a bit of more formal business. The library board contains 7 members, and it's what's called a municipally chartered library. You'll all recall we periodically appoint a board member, but we don't manage the operations. We don't fund the operations. There's some key terms. They've moved off to a self-sustaining funding off the general tax base, unrelated to a village tax or to a town tax. The town collects, and the school district collects what's called 259 tax revenue and 414. They're separately funded. They don't appear in any village budget line, but somehow we still keep the ability and authority to appoint or reappoint board members for 5-year terms. The library director and the board has recommended that we reappoint 2 board members. One is Don O'Shea, who currently sits as a board member, and then Mary Lisa Graber Blondell, who I know and you all know. As one of the board and the directors want them to continue, and these are non-paying, how would you say, no reimbursement, these volunteer jobs. There's no compensation is what I'm trying to say. And the recommendation comes from Dawn and the board to reappoint those 2. I don't see any conflict. As I said, there's no money, there's no compensation involved on my side, or my wife's side. So I would offer that the village board reappoint existing board members Don O'Shea and Mary Lisa Graber Blondell for another 5-year term at the recommendation of the board and the director of the library. Is there a second?
Second.
Any other thoughts, questions? Hearing none, I would call for a roll call vote. I will vote yes. Mr. Kowalczyk,
Yes.
Mr. Trapp,
Yes.
and Ms. Norris.
Yes.
Okay, so we'll pass the word along to Library Director Dawn, who can pass it along to those board members. Another item, we should all put our thinking caps, and I'll give you a little background here. It's Highway Shared Services snow option. What I've got here has to do with shared services, highway, like the title says. And let me give you a little background. What arose about 3 weeks ago, the town supervisor reached out to me and indicated a perceived need for help plowing Hoffman Farms, now known as Tradition, and some other smaller roads. And historically, especially Brent will remember, even with Traditions, the thinking was the town really didn't have the equipment or the skill set to do small village type, urban type roads. When the supervisor reached out, I was like, okay, it's kind of consistent to what we were thinking. And, but I said I would need to talk to A, our highway foreman, and B, the village board. And C, what I did was I took our budget. We have specifically defined lines that list personnel, materials, equipment, vehicles, insurance. And when grosses that up, it's about $86,000. And we have 16 lane miles of items or roads that we plow. So you divide that and you get a cost per mile. Is one way of doing it. Other methods would be to calculate how many hours, how many minutes. That would seem impossible to me. And so we started some preliminary talks, and apparently the town circulated something on social media that we were in talks. But I would stress that they were very, very early, very preliminary. So when I took my next step and sat with Dan Strive, our highway foreman, he indicated, well, no, he's talking with the town highway superintendent, and they have a whole different plan where it would be the larger roads and our larger truck, which is really not consistent with what our initial intent was even years ago. We have two smaller trucks. We're more familiar with small roads. Even our large truck is not fully designed for blasting through the open snow drifts of the town. It's so that caused me concern, and I wrote back to the town supervisor and said, hey, no, I'm getting mixed messages, mixed signals. I'm not sure where we're going to go on this, but I still kept it on our agenda. More talks occurred. I had direct talk with Highway Superintendent Burke, and a second talk. And what I'm being told is there's messaging coming to us from the town supervisor, and it's not consistent with what the highway superintendent's talking and seeing as a need. And I'll be frank, it seems like a lot of it boils back to last spring, the town released some highway employees from the highway department. They're looking at options to get it back, get coverage. The third or fourth complicating factor was in the open road scenario. In my opinion, there's far more road use in those roads. What they're talking about, just to be specific, folks, is what's called Rokeby Road, Middle Road, open farm, rural farm roads that are subject to drifting, and there's a lot of traffic on those roads compared to our village streets, and it's more high-speed traffic. Another piece of setting the background stories, we do have since 2005, I think, a shared service agreement with the town where we share the highway garage. We have, I just misspoke, it only goes back 5 years. 2015 is the IMA. And we periodically help each other out. If a machine is broken or we need help, we do that with each other. But this project looks to be a more formal, designated assignment of road plowing. And then the last, to me, deal-breaking issue came up the other day. Our highway department is part of the UPSEU. It's a union of professional service employees. And the town is also trying to organize. They are union members, but they don't have an existing contract yet with the town. But the union has taken a stance that this would violate some labor law in the sense that our employees would be essentially replacing laid off town union employees. And I just do not want to be in that position at all. I think it's a situation where if we were picking up roads that they just had no skill set or equipment to handle, like traditions, that I could justify. But here, I just don't want to go there. And I don't want to get board review and thought, but it's something where I told the highway superintendent, I said, look, if you had burned up a truck or rolled over a truck and you needed help, we'd come out and help you for a month, 2 months, whatever you needed, we'd be there to help you. But we can't jump in. And the highway superintendent is really, to be honest, not the one actively looking for this. It's coming from the supervisor side. And they're trying to find a way to cover some shift shortfalls. And it's got too many problems, especially that labor overlap and replacement piece, which is a secondary thing too. Like our biggest truck is not anywhere near the size of their trucks. And I don't know if we'd be overworking or damaging our truck, pushing it through roads and drifts and territories that we're not familiar with. You know, our guys know our streets like the back of their hand. I think they can plow them 2 a.m., half asleep, and they get through. But you all will recall we've incurred some damage to trucks when they get a little too close to a pole, or different unforeseen things can cost you $7,000, $8,000, $10,000. And I need to get our streets plowed. We can't be racking our equipment on something else. So long story short, I need to convey something back to the town supervisor, and I've also talked to the town highway superintendent, like I said, and I just don't see where we want to, I don't want to pursue it this year.
Last thing we need to do is get in the middle of a union squabble to help somebody balance out labor shortages. It's just not worth it, man. Come on.
Yeah, no.
And I think even the costs that you figured out, the cost for, them to hire the village with all of our associated costs and insurance and that kind of thing, it probably exceeds what cost to, hire seasonal help for plowing would be. But my concern too, traditions, the town those aren't even town streets at this point in time.
Right. Well, that was the thing that came up early in the first stages of review. Is like, well, we're not going to be plowing non-designated, non-needed roads, and that's why at onset I thought we were talking about a project 18 months, like a winter from now, or something when there's more roads designated. But and on Jay's thought, it's we don't want to be in the middle of that squabble, and I don't think we even should be. In other words, our guys are unionized. We support the working man. We support the right to organize, and I think the town has to just acknowledge that, accept that union. And Brent mentioned the word seasonal workers. There's some options. You don't have to hire a full-time something. You could get somebody to work 6 months, and then
it's very difficult. It's difficult to hire seasonal work, and
but
we'll have they need a steady income. If they even have a second job with snow, you're on call basically based on a snowstorm. So it's hard to find, from both sides. But they should look at Plan B, I think. And
well, here's the catch-22. I don't want us to be perceived as the bad guys on the block. But I mean, we are interested in shared services, and if it makes sense for us, but there's too many underlying things here, meaning like
complicated.
We have to get that message out. In other words, the highway superintendent is separately elected from the town supervisor, and I don't want to get in the middle of that. The union, we support the union. We don't want to get in the middle of that, but we still support shared services. Somehow I have to be able to convey, hey, look, if the wheels fall off one of your trucks and you need 30 days to get them back, we'll send Dan. We'll do what we got to do to help you. But we don't want to get into the contracts or any long-term things. It sounds like we're in consensus on that. I don't know how you would frame a vote on this. It's if anybody had a thought, but
it seems like the services they're looking for are really better off trying to ask the county, because their equipment and manpower is, bigger, and they're used to those type of roads. I think there's some shared agreements already with the county, and that's been pursued at this point in time. But
maybe the town should consider refunding those employee lines. I mean, it's difficult to make a change like that and then look to somebody else to cover. That's not really the same as a shared service. Like if we laid off some of our highway guys and then said, look, we're short a man, help us out. That's a little different than my truck broke down. Can we borrow your truck for a day, or something like that. It's two entirely different situations, I think. So I'm not sure. Should we just, instead of voting on anything, should we just make a sort of a motion to just not do anything, just step back from it? I don't know if that's the way to go.
Yeah, I know we have because like I said, I don't want to be like, oh, harumph, they don't do shared services. That's not the case. We totally believe in that where it makes sense. We're getting pushed into something that somebody used the word more complicated. We could figure out any detail we had to if we believed in the cause, but here it's not causing isn't quite clear to me. Like there's a layoff in the spring. There's staffing issues now. It's a little contrived. I got told that word earlier this week. Anyway, well, I guess maybe Jay could help word something, but if we did a short motion, at this point in time, the village is always interested in shared services, but the complications of a request to plow certain village or certain town roads is not consistent with our planning and our abilities at this point. I think I'll just say that. I don't think we need a motion. What if I just say it's not consistent with our abilities and our intentions right now? You guys be okay with that?
And therefore we just are going to not act on it or something like that. Yeah, I think that's good, Ed.
Yeah, okay. Good. Thanks, Jay. I'll just put a few of those words down so I can work on it more. All right, thank you. Let's see, what else we got? This one, let me get another one of my folders out here. It's more to update everybody on the status of the executive order and police redesign reform actions. We did have on September 26th a local community forum hosted by Dutchess County Human Rights Commission, and I made I made tons of handwritten notes and then gleaned from them some key ideas that I would just put out there in a few minutes for all of us to think about. We have many things ahead of us on this project. A few I circulated some interesting info lately about, but in the community forum, if I recall right, Brent might remember somewhere in my early notes how many people were actually on the call. I want to say it was 143, something like that. Do you remember the exact number, Brent? Let's see.
I think there was 120 that signed up for it.
Yep, I do see in my handwritten note, yes, 120 folks registered, it said.
It seemed like there were less than that actually participated, but
yeah, it seemed to me maybe 40, maybe 43 is the number. Not that many people spoke, but we had 3 mayors or trustees from Tivoli and Red Hook, the county legislator. We had one of our citizen volunteers, a couple of our residents I heard speak.
but none of the elected officials were permitted to speak.
Yeah, they cut us off. What I did was, with each person, I made an outline of their key points, and the series was really designed for an idea session or brainstorming on what reforms would you like to see. And people could interpose an issue or problem they had, but it really wasn't too much to that. I thought I'd just read these off. They're kind of interesting, and it's you can scan them and send them out to everybody, but it's just what people are thinking. And just to remind our board, the municipalities that are involved in this project are those that have police agencies, so it's not every one in the county. But anyway, ideas posed. One was accreditation, which is something, like say the sheriff's office has that, but not many of the smaller agencies do. I think when you get down in the South County town of Poughkeepsie, some of the real big guys have it. Another idea was civilian first responders. I'm not going to make a comment, positive, negative. I'm just going to read these off. The complaint process. People want to know more about complaint processes and where they lie and how you get access to them. A more diverse force. And again, it's important for board and anybody listening. These were not specific necessarily to Red Hook operations. It was for really, all police agencies to consider, but certainly we would. So one was diverse force. One was civilian review board, possibly comprised from multiple municipalities. Reduce police activity at mental/drug addiction, domestic matters. Screen out racially motivated 911 calls. Hire mental health professionals. BLM, Black Lives Matter statement by departments. Body cameras. De-escalation training. Bias training. No ICE coordination. Police review board with subpoena power. Campaignzero.org. which I looked up since the meeting. It's an organization with 10-point reform options, which encompass a lot of things we'll read here right now. Local sessions specific to Red Hook Police, Red Hook Police website, racial record of traffic stops, anti-SRO. One person was anti-SRO presence in the schools.
It was just replacing SROs with more care professionals, I think, was
Yeah.
the comment I wrote.
Delineation of service areas / transparency. What that was about, it seemed like a lot of people have confusion of what are state troopers versus sheriffs versus Red Hook Police versus DEC police. How do you pick and choose who you get? Those of us that know and have been working on it, it's 911 based.
There were a couple other ones was required body cameras. There was term limits for the sheriff, and I think.
I wrote. I might have skipped over body cameras, but.
I think you said body cameras at one point.
Okay, good, thanks. It's on my list. Term limits, I didn't. Not that I disagree with that, but I don't show it on my recap. But I'll write it down, Brett. So where does it leave us? What we're doing is I have these every other week collaborative calls, county level, policy people, other police professionals, other elected officials are on the call. One thing came up lately that I thought we'd talk about. I circulated it to the board and reacted already to the county civil service and county executive. But apparently the county right now, they require 60 college credits, so essentially an associate's degree, to qualify to take the test for a police recruit. They're looking to back that off to high school only, which I think is totally counterproductive and so stated. Got some pushback already. I think if anything, we need to make our police more professional and even insert ongoing in-service is the word I'm looking for. In-service credentialing, like any other professional, architects, engineers, lawyers, insurance adjusters, anybody with real serious professional obligations and duties, we need to be sure they keep current. And I don't see how accepting 4-year high school to take a test. And what civil service is recommending is they then have a 5-year window to secure their AA or 60 credits, including the police academy. But it seems tough. You all recall our police contract. When we hire, they come in at a certain rate and they're in field training. And then that's where we look at them and see, hey, even though they passed our reviews, our screening, our hiring process, we still are not sure that they're the right candidate for us until we get them out in the field and in the car with the senior officers. And then when they make that, they come off probation and become out of field training, rather, into probation. Then there's still a time frame to examine them. Whereas if you're giving somebody 5 years to get an AA degree, I just don't know how you write that into the contract. If they're not taking the classes, when do you turn them off? Do you say, hey, you've had 3 years and you haven't done a college course yet? I just don't know how you would manage that. That's one of my secondary issues to civil service. The biggest thing, I think, college degree, AA, we'd be more assured of people interacting with more folks than just coming out of high school. And the caveat, though, is for us, we tend to hire mainly part-timers. So we could retain an outside the civil service box for our part-timers. But we do have 3 full-time slots that if one of them were to leave and we didn't, we'd have to work by the civil service rule 3. We could get boxed into something that didn't quite meet our standards as far as a candidate. And I just don't know. I saw some circulation of data today, but I haven't fully read it. The Sheriff's Department is starting to think of what that 5-year window to get course certification means for them. But anyway,
well, if you look at a precedent for that sort of mentality or that process, building inspectors can be hired by a municipality and they have like a year to complete their training. Otherwise, they have to let them go. So, there is at least some sort of precedent out there for that sort of process.
Yeah, it's related. You're right. It's in that case, it's mainly obtaining a credentialing.
Correct.
Usually a building inspector has some construction or some like engineering, something where you're in the field, so to speak. This is somebody green out of high school. I was putting forth a proposal. One reason they're justifying it is to get a more diverse applicant pool.
Sure.
But I think, well, if you can identify kids in high school who have the inclination or interest, and why not direct them to community college and the police academies, and if somehow offer scholarship or incentive, some sort of financial to get them through, especially if you're looking to bolster a minority population within your force. But the other one just seems a little out of sync with the modern era and where policing is right now. It just seems backwards to me. But so anyway, I got some pushback already on it, but I wanted you all to know what we're thinking and up to. And I think individually, if somebody has more experience with more of the world, they'll be a better police officer. So anyway, again, I don't think there's a vote or motion. What I read the other day was civil service was going to make the change effective October 26th, which is really close. I suppose we could consider something saying, hey, look, we still have misgivings and we'd like that delayed.
We could still use our own standards though, right? There's nothing
for the part-timers, but to be honest, I could see some internal stress on that, because it'd be like, well, wait, if the counties, many times, whether it's COVID or whatever, we defer to some bigger entities with more policy wonks and more expertise to look at the broad spectrum of the issues. Whereas here, if we're saying, well, we will not, and I would recommend that the stance we take, we will not recommend, hiring anybody that doesn't have an AA, the 60 credits, and go with, but I could see we would get pushback, like, well, why are you, I think we still be in our rights to do it. But like I said before, we could get pinched if we do need to replace a full-timer, and you have to pull off the list. I can't quite imagine all the ramifications, but there'd be complexity, because when we interview, we've taken the candidates through pre-screening, and the board sits with all these people. We're pretty, clear and intent what we want right now, and it's kind of I smile a little bit, but even with the folks we get with more time under their belt, they still look awfully young, don't they? But
maybe we're getting awfully old. Maybe.
That can't be. But
no, I'm sorry. I apologize.
I'm the oldest guy in the crowd here, I think. But anyway, as they tease me at Hardscrabble. But what I was going to say was, if you're pulling, I just can't see an 18-year-old being trained, and that's really, really young. And I was teasing some people. When I graduated high school, I was 17 years old. I was like, man, that's theoretically still possible, I think. But anyway, would anybody, I could conjure up something in the form of a motion to say, hey, the village board of the Village of Red Hook, like more thought, more consideration given to rescinding the need for 60 college credits for a police officer.
I think we want more training rather than less training.
Yeah, and more. What I'm getting at too, training is a good word, Brent, but it's more world experience or more life experience, something.
Maturity.
Or coming out of your parents' bedroom is what you do when you're graduating high school. It's like you need somebody that's seen a little bit of the rest of the world. And I guess I'm inclined to say we should do a motion saying We're concerned about the October 26th civil service change to require only high school. We think you need more training and more world experience.
More life experience.
You bet.
And yeah, so we'd say we're opposed to the change. And I'd like to throw something in that we'd recommend ongoing in-service credentialing be created, not less.
Well, every other, profession that New York State has, from even people who are just certified, you said like building inspectors,
Yeah.
to architects, engineers, you all have to do annual trainings, and you have to keep up with it or your history.
Yeah.
Yeah. Your continuing education credits and that kind of thing.
I think that would enhance the credibility of a police officer. I've got training in this. And to be honest, like, to our credit, like one of our senior guys, Tommy D, I think he has his master's in public administration and police. We've got some people here that are significantly educated, and some of them teach at the academy. Some of them have 4-year degrees. I just don't want it to go backwards. So I made some notes. So if I dwelled on, we don't agree with the October 26th change. We see need for more in-service. Well, we want to add in-service training. We want to see more training. What's the word? Getting with training here. We need people coming out with more training, not being trained on the job. And then we want them with more life experience too. And then this is just a small piece of the overall project here, but I just think we need to do something on this piece. So,
in the continuing education, the ongoing credits. And I think that's important, especially in these times where incidences do change societal kind of reflections on how policing should work. So I think keep current on that, a continuing education credit basis and ongoing education is essential.
Yeah. And pushing through for our, like, for instance, we've submitted a lot of our policies off to the collaborative group for review, and looking at our use of force. It's kind of interesting. I was looking, it's about 8 pages long. Let me just see if I can find something. This is ours. And officers will not use a chokehold as a method of controlling or restraining a person unless deadly physical force is authorized and reasonably necessary in accordance with established New York state and federal law. So I've tagged that as essentially it's telling me it's not authorized as a method of restraining a person. It's a deadly force situation, and there's pages and pages of levels of deadly force and what is and what isn't. These are things I think you at least have to come out of the academy to have some understanding of the law and the precedents and where these things came from. But if we're so inclined, I will hit those key points in a motion. I'll circulate it tomorrow but I think what I'd like to do is go on the record with civil service in the county saying, here's our position, and go from there. So in that kind of vague sense, I think I made notes on the points that work for you folks. So I would move that we send the village's stance to the county civil service and the county executive and the collaborative group. I will vote yes. Mr. Trapp?
Yes.
Mr. Kowalczyk?
Yes.
And Ms. Norris?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. Let's see. The last thing.
Ed, do I need a second on that motion?
Oh, yeah, I guess you
I'll
do.
second it.
Thank you. Thank
Sorry.
you.
Thank you, Lara.
Who says I'm good for nothing?
Good thing we had the clerk out there to keep us honest. Going along here, but let me touch on one thing, then we'll do some public comment. The last bullet point on the sheet, the agenda sheet, was water sewer planning. Brent hit a fair amount of it, and I touched on a little bit with the numbers, the meter change, But the big picture, I sat with somebody from Delaware Engineering a week ago Friday. Bill Bright is his name. He's run various water operating companies over his career. Now he sits in Delaware as a straight employee. We're looking at getting the best model, because now we have a bunch of people touching different parts of our operation, and very, very soon we're going to be in the sewer business. What's our best model here to run with? You all know we hire VRI for water operations, but that's kind of just a little piece of what we do. We need billing, which we hire a software company, and then we have problem meters, so we call in consultants in VRI to help us. But there's really nobody in-house sitting over all of it, except those of us that see an issue and work on it. Trying to find out, where is the model? Do we have to think about a rate increase in water in the next couple of months to pick up a few dollars to pay somebody some more service time? We haven't raised rates in a long time. I'm not recommending it here tonight. I haven't studied the numbers enough, but that budget's about a $520,000 budget in general. So you can do the math. Certain percentages would generate X number more dollars. I just want to keep you advised in that even this cycle we billed, I think it was $161,000 or $168,000, which is a good billing number. But there's still problem meters, problems that I don't think we should be experiencing at this point with the age of the meters. So we're going to have to task out our detailed analysis, figure out what's going on. And I'm willing to babysit it, but it's something where we really need somebody to sit on it. I don't think it's necessarily the treasurer's job or the deputy clerk or clerk's job. We need somebody. Do we end up somehow looking at another operator? But part of my conversations outside have been, there's really not too many of them out there. You all might recall we did RFPs years ago. A lot of them are mom and pop type operations, which we're way beyond right now. Long story short, I don't have the answer here tonight, but we're in the search. And if you come up with anything, we got to get it all under one operating model, and meaning water and sewer and billing and repairs and everything. You all remember we tried to do with highway, but the experiment didn't really work out. So we're looking to redesign that as well. We could move then to public comment. We have some names I don't recognize out there. If you would, I don't think we have a raise a hand on Ring Central, do we? If people wouldn't mind, I see. Well, I guess some people are still muted. If you want to unmute and say your name and where you live, and if you have a question or statement, we'll listen to you. Anybody want to talk?
Nothing to say here.
Did you say you do have something?
Nothing.
Okay, good. Hey, Marty, how are you?
Good.
That's
I
our
see a
local-
hand waving though. Mel Corca is waving her hand.
Oh, really?
I'm glad I can help out.
Well, thanks, man. I'm looking over at mute buttons and microphone buttons. Mel Corca, you're on.
I just wanted to say that have you taken into consideration that school requirement is a barrier for people that actually live in neighborhoods that are being policed? That is a barrier for them not to be able to join the police force. Here in Red Hook, maybe that's less of an issue, but in, say, a place like Poughkeepsie, that is an actual issue for residents not being able to participate in the policing of the community because it's a barrier for them because they can't afford maybe going into schooling for that 5-year thing. I just,
Yeah, that's a good point. It did come up in the discussion as a stakeholder position. But that's what I mentioned. I think if guidance counselors or school folks could identify while still in high school, those that are interested and find funding, whether it be scholarships or programs, I think that'd be a better way to get the candidate in from a minority neighborhood or from that setting you're describing.
But if that program doesn't exist right now, how do we change that now? Because I think, pretty privileged position for us to consider saying no to something that would actually maybe help a community remove that barrier for themselves.
Well, I'm not sure that the racial component is aided by reducing it to the high school degree only, because
yeah, you can't lower the standards. You just cannot lower the standards of education to get more people in, because you're not going to improve the process at that point.
And I know.
What is the official recommendation of, say, a body like the Human Rights Commission? What do they recommend on something like this?
Yeah, I don't know the answer with human rights. I don't know if they have a purview to recommend. I think, but I understand your point, and that was one of the pushbacks. But we see policing as it's an incredibly powerful position. You know, you get a badge and a gun, and yeah, it's just. I think the task is to improve the professionalism of the job, and not by reducing standards. It's more get the right candidates and then keep them getting smarter, getting more sophisticated. And some of the things we read off, we'll be doing, the bias training, and we do de-escalation. We have certain things already in place, but
there's a lot of smart, sophisticated people that can't afford college. I just, that's something we should use words like that to.
But I think there would be, I think the county would be better served by creating, funding mechanism, because a 5-year training course, in our case, if we have a good employee that, just thinking out loud, that we can get credentialed that will help us, we would help pay for that,
But the issue that it's meaning to address is not something that would be happening in Red Hook. It's something that would be happening in places where they don't have community members policing the community, right? That's the issue that it's supposed to be addressing, policy recommendation?
No, I think it,
No.
I think
No?
no, it's not just that. I think they want to get more candidates out there. But I think there's a qualified. Well, I guess, Clark, I think what we'll do is we've considered that, and it's part of the considerations in the group. I'm not sure but where it'll end up, but thank you for your input.
Okay.
Anybody else? Ray, our treasurer, was on earlier. Did he last out the whole meeting? But anyway, he's there. I see him. But we have the vouchers here. We've been through them. So we would need a motion to pay bills after audit. I would make such a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Oh, 2 seconds. All right. I heard trap first, I think. And then all in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. We have to pay our bills. Anything from the board that we touched on or didn't touch on that you need to pursue or bring on to our attention? Looks like I checked all the boxes next to my list. Thank everybody for joining. I see some names that I don't recognize, but welcome, and join us again next month. I guess one thing before we adjourn, my sentiment is normally we'd have a board workshop meeting in 2 days, Thursday. I think we went long and we hit everything we needed to hit here. I don't see a need, and there's nothing immediately pressing that we need to workshop this Thursday. And with Zoom, it's kind of hard to really do a total brainstorming, bounce off the walls workshop, still for me anyway. Would you folks be inclined to cancel the Thursday, whatever, say the 13th, so it'll be the 15th. It turns out that's the third Thursday, which happened, 2 days apart, which doesn't make much sense, but I'd be inclined to forego the meeting. Anybody have any other thoughts?
I agree.
Okay, so we will not hold the workshop. I think our next meeting, November 9th, which will be a few days after the elections. everybody get out and vote. I think there's early voting in October 24th in Rhinebeck.
Yep.
Get down there, do your civic duty, and let's keep things going here. All that being said, Mr. Kowalczyk, are you ready to move this meeting to a close?
I sure am. I'd like to make a motion that we.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
Might
He couldn't get it out there.
We got to go all night. He can't get through on the internet. Let's see.
Did it hear me?
No. You broke up.
Oh, let me do it again. I'd like to make a motion that we adjourn this evening's meeting.
I agree. And all in favor?
Aye.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.